Now we're going to pivot to talking about that Rayo Vallecano loss. And for the second straight game, Gabi was, we'll say, one of the most influential players, one of the ones who was fighting, and it's very difficult after a match like that. It's a challenge, really, to separate the individual performances, because for the fifth straight match, you can say that the entire team was poor against Rayo Vallecano. And to me, Jose, the problems are twofold here, and maybe morefold. You can add wrinkles if you'd like, but I want to focus on two major pieces here. One is the walking injured and the fact that the current team is clearly fatigued and burnt out. And the other one, kind of does. I mean, that one does kind of include all the transfers needed over the summer. But two is the more serious one to me, and that is the mentality of the team. And whether they're young, whether they're seasoned professionals, been around for a long time, Champions League winners, whatever, a mentality, it clearly is a problem that there is a mentality in that team right now, even under Xavi, that allowed FC Barcelona to lose 3 straight matches at home for the first time ever. I mean, we're talking Louis van Gaal. Well, technically they did it between 97-98 and 98-99 over the course of those seasons. But again, there was a summer break in the middle, so you don't really count that. So in the course of one season, 3 straight matches for the first time. Charlie Reixach, again, Louis van Gaal, Ernesto Valverde, Quique Setien, you name it. No manager. I mean, Xavi's going to have 4-0 at the Bernabeu on his resume, but he's also going to have the only manager in at least the Camp Nou history, because it's harder to go back before that to like Court and all that stuff. But yeah, the first manager in Camp Nou history, which is almost 70 years, to lose 3 straight at home. That's rough.
Yeah, it's very rough. I totally agree with you. Right now, it's more mentally than, I'm not gonna say the physically, because physically comes to part two. It's part of my notes over here that, as you remember, there were a couple of players that when they left Barcelona, they mentioned that with Koeman, they were not fully practicing at a high level. They can see the difference, when they're in a different club, or the players now that they're with Xavi, that they're practicing now with more intensity. So that takes an effect. Also, it's been rough because at the kind of when Xavi took the team, at one time, I don't remember, it was the second or third match when we had about 9 to 11 players injured. So he was, Xavi came out dealing with some issues from the get-go, that you push these players to a limit where they were not used to, and now we're paying the price because now they're either tired, fatigued, like you mentioned, or they're getting injured. So it's, somebody said it on Twitter. We need a psychologist for this team right now, because they're mentally broken right now, and they get frustrated, and then it seems that they cannot overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a defense against Real Sociedad because they continue to have a bad performance, but clearly a win, I think, changed that narrative. But also Real Sociedad didn't play in a low block. They played in a medium block, and the problems have been against a low block, where Eintracht Frankfurt, they didn't really play in necessarily a low block either. It was a medium to low block, wanting to counterattack, and yeah, they just punched Barcelona in the mouth, and Barca didn't recover from that on a European night. But Cadiz and Rayo Vallecano are more worrying because game in and game out, that's what you're going to have to deal with. If you want to win the Liga, if you want to challenge anywhere, you've got to pick up points against teams that are going to just bunker down the hatches. And what makes it so frustrating is how ugly those games are. I mean, a plus 11 because Rayo Vallecano was just rolling around, and it was difficult to be angry at any one player on Rayo Vallecano because their goal was to score early and then, again, just dig in as hard as they could, and that's what they did. So if you're going to concede first, which Barcelona just keeps doing, now they've conceded first in 15 of 32 matches under Xavi, coming back only 4 of those 15 times. And especially the way that they conceded in yesterday's game. Alvaro Garcia gets a better Serginho Dest. I mean, really a rough defensive play from Serginho Dest, to put that mildly. I mean, it doesn't get over to the block, doesn't track the run. And yeah, it's a really good pass from Issy Palazon, but you have to be there. You have to block that. You have to make sure that that ball doesn't go in the back of the net, because it winds up beating Ter Stegen at the near post. And that's got to be covered by the defender. And then Dest afterwards to come out at halftime, not because of any tactical reason. Because again, I didn't think, other than that one mistake, I didn't think he was particularly terrible. He works decently well with Dembele, but now he's out for the rest of the season with a hamstring injury. Of course, because if a player comes out at halftime for Barcelona, it's not because of a tactical change. Usually, it's going to be because they're out injured, and they're going to be injured for now and again the rest of the season. You lose him as well. And as I look at the same thing with the B team, actually, as I look at the B team and the first team, there's so many names in these 11s where I start to ask, how many of these 11 players are going to be trusted for next year, or what do we learn from Lenglet being on the field when we know where the club stands on Lenglet? Danny Alves, we know exactly what Danny Alves is, and we're not sure exactly how healthy he is, but what are you going to learn more from Danny Alves? For Eric Garcia, it's always hot and cold, up and down, depending on the day. And so, you go out throughout the squad, and other than hoping Frenkie de Jong recovers his form and hoping that Gabi, again, just continues to be more influential and takes not even a leadership role, but just becomes more impactful on the offensive side of the game, which, it's a lot to ask a 17-year-old, but that's basically where you're at right now. And then is Dembele, because even Dembele, for all the good things he does, and he has certainly helped Barcelona get results in the last few months, what is that for? For a player that's leaving on a free? So it's like, what are Kool-Aid's hanging on to right now? And even if Ansu comes back against Mallorca, which is rumored that he might, we're just going to be sitting there and crossing our fingers and saying, please just don't get injured. Regardless of what happens, just don't get injured, Ansu, please.
Yeah, exactly. It's a complicated situation. I mean, the way how everything is being, handled from the get-go. I think our mistake was starting the summer, where if we were gonna do a change, he was the coach, to start with the right foot from the beginning, not in the middle of the season where everything's already has started. Little going back tracking what you said right now, going on Dest. There was a version yesterday on ESPN. We were listening in Spanish, and one of the reporters mentioned it, that one of the reasons that he got subbed, it was because he was told to defend the Rayo attacker. They show him videos of how this player moves, and on that goal, he, like you said, he was not doing his duty. He let him pretty much do his cut and get the ball, and never blocked it the way he's supposed to, and that was one of the reasons that he got subbed during the halftime. Now, obviously, there's a report that he's injured, so you can go both ways, but at the same time, it's something that I guess if they show you a lot. Obviously, we didn't have too much time preparation because we play on Thursday and the game was on Sunday, so we didn't literally have that much. But again, this is something where you as a defender gotta do your homework, and apparently he didn't do it. Then with Eric, it's the same thing. Like you said, it's hot and cold. It's sometimes it's frustrating because you see sometimes on the replays, and either out of position, it's either hugging up an attacker where like you don't when you don't need to hug the player, it's rough. And then again, when they're playing the low block that you mentioned, it's I think that they need to open more the field, have these players, our attackers, move into the space or create a space so somebody like Frankie can move up. But at the same time, Frankie, I'm gonna say it's a little bit mentally blocked right now, or like frustrated because he got some spike during the season, but then again he went low. I don't know what could it be. And again, going to our can't ask too much for our kids. I mean, the guts that Gavi's been putting in all these matches, you expect that from the seasoned players, but at the same time, you can't ask too much from Busi. He's a veteran. And we're missing our backbone in the defense with PK. Putting in control. You can ask that right now from Araujo, because he's been all over the place. When he needs to play as a right back, he plays it as a right back. When he plays as a central, he does it well. But at the same time, we need another one that keep us in check. When PK is out, you can really see that difference on the back, that nobody's there in putting that control.